Mr. Langston.
All right, y'all bear with me.
Does anyone need a full agenda before we get started? No.
Okay, call the Tuesday meeting of Board of City Commission to order. We have, first item is the consent agenda. So that's the minutes of 4/21/20, page 1 through 4.
Motion to adopt.
There's a motion by Commissioner Ashbrook to adopt the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Lowry. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion passed 5-0. Mr. Attorney, it's your turn.
Yes, Mayor. A couple things on the agenda today. The first being the second reading and consideration of adoption ordinance 571, which is the CIP plan update. I need a motion and a vote to have the second reading, and then a motion and a vote for adoption.
Motion for second
Okay,
reading.
ordinance 571. I hear a motion to that effect.
Motion.
Okay, it's a motion by Commissioner Lowry. Is that you?
I'll second.
Look, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
I'm sorry. Okay, Commissioner Lowry second. Discussion. I've got a little discussion. Of course, it's pretty. It's what 37 pages long, and I know that's what we have to do. But Jim, if you would give us a quick Reader Digest version of the CIP plan for the next 5 years, and in specific for the items that are earmarked for 19 and 20, and did we get those accomplished?
Yes, sir, Mayor. The CIP plan, what you basically want to do is you want to have this kind of a roadmap for the city. It's ever changing. It's a revolving door year to year, but what you want to do is put it in place, especially for anything you plan to try to get a grant for. Years 1, 2, and 3 need to be for dedicated funding that has been secured by the city. Years 4 and 5 are wish list items that you try to move forward on, try to find funding the next couple of years. With items in this current year, most of the items have been accomplished on there. There's still a few that we're still working on trying to get completed this year. But it's been a very rewarding year coming after the hurricane and trying to get some things accomplished. You'll see in our meeting today, we still have a few items that we want to continue on with completing after the storm. But we're very pleased with where we've been and where we're at today following Hurricane Michael.
Okay, any questions, guys, on CIP plan?
I just have a question, Mayor, and it may not be something that we need to worry about this year, but we still on page 9 of the agenda show the sports complex on 10th Street. Is there any way that we could widen that? I mean, you've got water retention issues, we've got wetland mitigations, we've got other things going on, and that's just a pretty specific line item. I just want maybe going forward in the future, we can apply for other grants for other things if we widen the scope from just sports complex to maybe 10th Street Park.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. We could almost say from 8th Street to 20th.
Because we kind of put that to bed
That would
already.
be a wide scope, but we'd have to take it off this year. Was it on this year?
What we just have it out there in year 5.
Yeah.
Just that way, if somebody asks if the board decides to move forward with some type of grant, we can go back to our CIP plan and say, okay, it's in there. But Commissioner Ashbrook's right. If you get specific on a grant application, you could go back, or an idea, we could go back and change it to a specific date, time, and project. But we kept it broad in a lot of areas just because it gives you a lot more flexibility when applying for grants.
Okay, so you, at this time, you don't see a need to broaden that, or do you think?
It's very broad right now, the way it's set up. It's just sports complex the way it is now on there. But we can, at any point in time, like I said, this stuff can be changed at any point. It's something we do on a yearly basis, so we can be changed.
Okay. All right, everybody understand that? And the CIP, okay, so we've got a motion and a second for ordinance 571. Any further discussion? Any discussion online, emails? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion passed 5-0.
Ordinance number 571, an ordinance of the city of Port St. Joe, Florida, amending the capital improvement element of the comprehensive plan, amending the 5-year capital improvement plan, adopting the updated school district 5-year work plan, providing for repeal of all ordinances or parts of ordinance in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing for effective.
Okay, now we need a motion for adoption, 571.
So moved.
A motion by Commissioner Ashbrook, there's a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Lowry. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed 5-0. So we've got that adopted.
The next thing, Mayor, on the agenda that I'm assigned to deal with is the transfer station out on Industrial Road. That entire complex is approximately 4.5 acres. In doing the research on that, I found that we only own 3.2 of those acres, which is the parcel that has the hill on it, the parcel, the 1.2 acres with the building on it. We don't own. The county owns that. So I don't know necessarily what exactly it is that Mr. Connell from BCC wants to lease, but we don't have part of it. We only have the one part.
So the answer is he wanted to lease that from us. If he wants to lease the area where I would say the 2 garages are, which is county property, 1.2 acres, 1.2 acres. We just need to send him to the county. You got to deal with them. We don't own it. What are we going to do?
What it was is in 1984, by special warranty deed, St. Joseph Land Development Company deeded over or sold to Gulf County the entire complex. 10 years later, Gulf County sold to us the 3.2 acres portion of it. And that's the way it's sat since. I think there's been some misconceptions over the last 35 years of what's going on out there, and that's where we're at now.
Mayor, let's sell it back to them.
What part? The 3.2?
That's all we own.
I'd be fine with that, but
I mean, we're not doing anything. We just own vacant land at this point. We can't help Jason's mill right now at all.
One thing about it, we have it insured this whole time.
Yeah.
We got insurance money.
We've been maintaining it.
Do we have the part that we don't even own insured?
Yeah, we have the building insurance.
Yeah, it's insured. We've recovered funds for that. We've also made a claim to FEMA for recovered funds on that. That would complicate that issue for FEMA because theoretically, the county, if they owned it, they should be the ones that should be filing. Well, I mean, you work with the county. I'm sorry about that. The county would be the party that owns the property. I don't think we'll have to disclose that.
it is the case. So we obviously built that garage, 2-door garage complex. I'm assuming, we don't know that, but if we did, then we insured it. And we got insurance money on it.
Insurance is paid us for it, yeah.
But the FEMA money would, we'd have to cancel that out.
FEMA project is
But
still in
insurance
development.
money, it's our building and we insured it, so we should get the money. But it's complicated.
Technically, you can't insure something.
Well, that's true too.
Well, I think the city owned the building if they build it. It'd be like renter's insurance.
We actually have half of it. It's actually 2 parcels that combine the whole master parcel on there. So we're going to go back to FEMA and everybody on half of it and figure this out because half of it would still be covered under FEMA, half would not because it's trees in the county.
Yeah, we need a clear documentation of the transactions that have transpired so that we can have something we can explain to FEMA about what happened.
Well, Clint's got,
They're right here.
he's got,
Is there any documentation showing why we were allowed to build on that? I mean, did the county give us like a 20-year lease agreement or for no money?
they may have thought we owned it, I don't know.
I think they do.
I guess so too. I mean, this is interesting. But,
We'll pursue it with FEMA and see what they say.
Should we have the two attorneys talk?
Maybe we should just
Good
reach
idea.
out to the county and say,
Yeah, have the two
here's the
counties.
situation, what do you want to do?
yeah, would that be okay? You guys let Clint talk to the county attorney and, tell them that number one, Jason wants to lease it, and then in your research, you found that we don't actually own what he wants to lease, but we own the building. So they want to buy the building and the 3.2 acres.
One in this covenant in our special warranty, we had asked, of course, every parcel of property that's ever been bought from St. Joe, you have to give them the right first refusal. And then if they don't want any part of it, then you go to the county. If they don't want any part of it, then we can offer it up for sale to a third party. Wow. But there's some covenants on that, about the money and who can get what.
Okay.
What if they just deeded it to us?
Thank you.
Oh, St. Joe,
That could,
the
I
county.
mean, the county deeded us the 1.2 acres.
Yeah.
They could do that, but I think, no, they, in their deed, they have to offer it to St. Joe first.
okay, and then to.
And then it could be to anybody, third party, anything. It doesn't specifically state us and ours. We have to offer it to St. Joe, and then if they don't want it, we have to offer it to the town.
Maybe you and the county attorney can figure that out.
Well, now's the time I think St. Joe's going to be more than willing to play ball over the next 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, they can say that company, they don't want that.
I don't think they want that problem. They're probably not.
I'd recommend that before we went back to FEMA.
See if we can get it.
Yeah.
See if we
Yeah,
can figure that out.
definitely.
So the county would feed it over to us, or we'd pay the dock stands or whatever. Money would be to make it simpler, sure.
I'll talk to Jeremy and see where they are.
Okay, we'll keep kicking this down the road, maybe we'll figure it out.
35 years old.
Yeah. All righty, under old business, the COVID-19, update, Jim, you wanna bring us update on that, and then I think we'll have some discussion.
Yes, sir, Mayor. We tried to cover several of the topics last week. As we're well aware, the governor did open up, partially open up the state this past week on his executive order. Currently, the city opened back up the boat ramp, so we don't have anything else in place that, formally from the board under ordinance. But we still have our facilities closed for rentals. Our summer programs right now, we have made no decision on those, large gatherings, and even our city commission meetings. So these are all things that moving forward, we can make rules that are more restrictive, but not less restrictive than the governor's order. So the board needs to be thinking about these items and how we want to address them.
Okay, let me, just open up the floor, because we had a little discussion, earlier about everything you just brought up. So I'm gonna open the floor up and see what we want to do or what we can do. Okay.
Mayor, I've got one comment, and I think that we need to understand the difference of a city-sponsored opening or renting it to somebody else. I think that if we rent a park or to a group, it's still their responsibility to follow whatever the governor's orders are. We're not prohibited from doing that. But if we sponsor a summer program and somebody gets sick, then that's, I think, on us. I mean, I don't know legally that matters. If we open the Washington gym and let all the kids in there and we don't promote the social distancing, I think we're opened up for some liability there.
I would think if people weren't following what they were supposed to follow, yeah.
But if they want to rent a park, that's really why I say open the parks back up. If the people want to rent a park for a wedding, then it becomes their responsibility to make sure them and their guests are following the orders of the governor. So as long as the city's not sponsoring it and their name on it, I'm fine with opening those things back up.
But we come down to enforcement, which, a because our chief back there, I mean, it is our park.
Yeah.
There's certain requirements we have when they sign that contract for rental. And I guess now, if we open up the parks on part of that contract somewhere on there,
Gotta say it.
you have to abide by the governor's order, which is social distancing, groups more than 10. I mean, what you have pods of 10, 6 feet apart all over the property. That's gonna be tough. And then if the chief goes down there, officer goes down there, and they're all folks in a big lot, and that's, and,
Shut it down.
you got, so that being said, I think right now it's easier for us, and I don't like to say easy, I think it's more responsible and prudent to us not to open.
I'm not advocating today, Mayor. I'm saying in 2 weeks to a month, I think we still need to be cognizant about opening up gyms for kids to go play in. You know what I'm saying? That's a little more risky.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I just think, we've got to make, next month's June, that's when the summer programs usually start. So I mean, we just got to make some hard decisions on do we or don't we. And so I think probably is, unfortunately, we close them down for this year because we just don't know. I mean, we could, in a month's time, might say, okay, we're going to open it up, but there won't be any formal summer recreation program or something like that. But I hate it. But I mean, you can't open up the gym and have social distancing just by virtue of what goes on in a gym or the stack house for that matter. It's just unfortunate, but I think it's probably something we have to do. But I'd still like to hear some other comments from other folks.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I agree completely with you. I just don't want us to be responsible for this thing spreading, I guess, personally. If you've got a wedding of a group of 50 out there, I mean, I would feel responsible, you know, as a commissioner and allowing that, with the situation we're in right now. I think in a month, we might, with this testing coming on board, we might see different. And here in the next couple of weeks, I know Jim has mentioned it, that we'll see what the governor does.
Yeah, my only fear, Brett, is that I feel like the social distancing is going to persist for a year. I think that's never going to just drop, not anytime soon. I think that you'll see hair salons maybe in 2 weeks. I think that you'll see, you know, maybe a lifting of restrictions on vacation rentals. But I think the social distancing is the one thing that has to continue. And when do we say, okay, now it can be groups of 50, then do we open it? Or do we wait till it says groups of 100? I don't know. The honest answer is none of us know.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what the consensus of this group is as far as, you know, it's easy in my mind if it's inside a building, because the guidance that we've been given from phase 1 of the governor. But when you get into the outdoor spaces, what is everyone's thoughts on allowing a group of more than 10, like you said, 50, or let's say 100, if you have an event, wedding or a family event, that you want to have 100 people? Do you agree or disagree that you could take, like the mayor said, small groups of 10 and have them spaced out in 10 small groups of 10 and not be 6 feet apart within that group? I would say I have no indication that that would be allowed. But that's what we have to really decide, and what the message to the city needs to be the same. I would say that would not be allowed based on what I have read. So then you have to ask, well, are we saying that you can't have a group of more than 10 even outdoors? I don't know that that's
That's,
correct either.
that's what the governor's saying, because you look at their complaint about opening the beaches up, the beaches are full, but in some areas, they've had instances where people are gathering more than groups of 10.
Right.
So it's still 6 feet and no more than 10 in a group are standard everywhere.
And that's what I saw. I did see like Air Force Academy graduated a large group of people. They were all 8 feet apart. No one was in less than 8 feet apart. When they graduated, the kids, they didn't come closer than 8 feet. They didn't walk across the stage handing papers or anything. So I'm thinking, well, you could argue that maybe that would be allowed, but I don't think you can have that many people and not have people at like Core Park or one of our bigger parks get less than 6 feet apart would be the rules.
I would say it was their responsibility, the Air Force Academy, though, that was their responsibility. They were responsible for whatever happens there. And we're responsible, like Mr. Lowry said, whatever happens here. And if they had control, we open it up, we're not gonna have control unless we have vigilantes, and we don't want that. Mr. Langston,
I think that, we should keep it closed, and see how it's gonna go. I think that, people will go out, if we open it up, they'll go to the parks. They're not gonna be 6. Let's be realistic about the situation. They're not gonna be 6 feet away from each other. They're not gonna be in a group of 10. They're going out to have a good time, and they're gonna be jumping together. So, I think we just need to see what's going on, because I feel that people are not taking, because we're opening, the state is starting to open things up a little bit. We still got to have in mind that this thing is not defeated. You can't get complacent and start doing things that we forgetting about social distancing, things like that, and this thing spike up on us. I mean, we've been very fortunate to only have 1 case in Gulf County as we know of, we need to do more testing, but that's another subject. But I think we need to keep things the way they are and just take everything slow.
Yeah, the problem that I see, Mayor, is in Florida, it's a unique situation. You've got states that are on the downward, as we are, but then you've also got some states that still haven't peaked yet and are still getting worse. And those people come here, they're not going to Montana, they're coming to Florida. So we really have to look at what the nation's doing as a whole, and when we're all on a decline, then maybe we start thinking more like that. But it just takes one person from Atlanta to give us another case.
Mike,
Yeah, I have a family wedding on the books for June 15th, and certainly the original plan was for 150 or so people, and using Core Park and then the Centennial Building for the reception. I think you're right. I don't think if I have 100 people at a wedding, the whole thing is a social gathering. We're going to want to be closer than that. They're going to want to dance, so it's going to be a difficult decision for us, even if you have decided to allow us to do it with social distancing, to make the decision to have a wedding. We're not going to be able to gather and hug and kiss and all these kinds of things, My question would be, does anybody have any sense of what phase 2 restrictions might be? If we were to go to phase 2, does anybody have any idea of what would be allowed in that situation?
did the governor talk about May 14th for another big
Another update.
announcement or something, another update? So I think that's probably a target date.
So if in that scenario, he would allow groups of 50 to gather, in that scenario, would Core Park, it's easy to do social. The question then for me would be, would I be allowed to use the Centennial Building with 50 people?
Right. I like Mr. Langston said, let's go slow and we'll know more. We change. We got, more meetings between now
Sure.
and then. I know you've got to make plans.
My plans are set, and
Yeah.
we're flexible, and we're going to do what we need to do.
Right.
I just wondered if anybody had a sense what plan 2 might look
I
like.
have not heard. I just hope our state keeps going down, and I think that's going to open things up as we
But certainly my recommendation to my daughter would not be to try to do a large event of 150 people in Core Park when we couldn't all get together and dance and celebrate, like you would normally do in a wedding. But, she's driving the boat. So.
Part of the problem too, Mayor, with these events, where are these people going to stay? Vacationers are done. I mean, they're shut off. We're not allowing anyone that's on vacation to come stay. It's essential personnel only, and vacation rentals are closed. So how are these groups going to happen? Unless it's just the locals. And if it's just the locals, I'm not as concerned.
I don't understand why hotel motels can't do rent. I mean, you can't do a nightly. I mean, people publicly on television out of Panama City, they're talking about how they're open over there and how they had a great weekend. And there's this interview, this guy from Illinois, and they said, "Oh, Wednesday night we decided we just tired of being around here. Let's go to Panama Beach." And they loaded up, and they were on the pier at Panama Beach, not quarantining or anything. They just readily admitted it. And what is the rule?
So the most recent change, I think it was Order 111, that extended the old vacation rental ban to May 4th. And then in May 4th, 112 took over. And it just changed the language slightly for vacation rent for hotels. Depending on how you interpret it, I haven't spoke to Jim about it, it looks like hotels can be wide open. We don't want to be. The hotels kind of following the city's suit. We don't want to take steps. We don't want to be the ones responsible either, just like we don't here. And so we're kind of waiting to see if the city gives us a reason to, if the parks are open, we might as well let tourism come. If we're renting them out for weddings and things. But we've had to tell even people with funerals that we're not supposed to rent these rooms. And we make everybody sign a self-declaration form when they come in that they haven't been exposed in the last 14 days, they haven't internationally traveled, and they're not from the 3 counties in Florida that are affected right now. So honestly, Mayor, I don't know. I would love to open up for tourists tomorrow if I knew that we wouldn't spread COVID.
Yeah, I think we all we know from this past weekend, all the people that were here is amazing. It really was. And they're not all local, so you could look at the tag and know they come down and spend the night somewhere.
I'm not telling you everyone's honest on that self-declaration. I'm just telling you that they're not supposed to be there.
Yeah. And here's what concerns me. It's concerned me for the last several meetings that we're getting complacent. We're down to a C in social distancing in Gulf County. And I do know that this commission can make stricter regulations than the governor makes. We don't want to do that. I personally like to see the restaurants open, some activity downtown, the businesses are open and everything. But if we don't get a commitment from our citizens to do the right thing for themselves and their neighbors and relatives and friends, and if they see something wrong, to try to straighten it out. If we can't get a commitment and we don't see a commitment from our citizens, then I will go on record and to say we'll call a special meeting and we can shut the restaurants down, and we can make everybody wear a mask when they go inside a place, inside the city. So I'm, adamant about that, and I think we all are. We don't want to be the ones that see St. Joe so loose that it's just gone crazy, and all of a sudden we got 50 cases. And so let's try to spread the word from your friends, neighbors, whoever. We've just got to have that commitment that we're going to keep doing what we're supposed to do, and I'm proud that we've done that. That's why we only have 1 case, but we've got to keep our nose to the grindstone as far as following everything that's recommended to us it's not by the guy on the street. It's scientifically proven that what we're doing is working. And so let's follow the science and not hearsay.
For the record, Mayor, I heard that our scallops in this bay provide the antibodies to this, so everybody should come for scallops.
Okay. All right. More discussion on this. What about open meetings? We're on Zoom now. I think we continue on Zoom, but can we allow more than 10 people in this meeting room. And if we're not gonna allow 10 in the Sac House of Centennial, I don't guess we allow 10 in here. Well, we should.
I'm comfortable if you space the chairs out, take the chairs out that you can't have, and just space them out. I'd be fine with that.
Have chairs 6 feet apart.
Well, my understanding when it comes to indoors, the only exception, y'all correct me if I've missed something, is talks about if you are a restaurant or if you're a retail store, then you have certain guidelines that tell you how many people you can have in your building or restaurant. I didn't see anything that talked about public meetings, forums, indoor buildings, other than those two items. So my interpretation of phase one is we are still at status quo of where we were weeks ago. Now, when phase two comes out, I plan to support phase two. I plan to vote in support of allowing us to move as a community into the rules and guidelines of phase two. But at this point, I haven't read anything that would let us fill the room with more people than 10.
I 100% agree with you. And our next meeting is the 19th. So we should know a whole lot more then, and we can discuss opening our meetings up then if you would like to. It is kind of interesting that they would allow 25% occupancy in a restaurant, but wouldn't let it, open forum. But it doesn't say it, so.
Libraries, I think you can open a library.
And we don't draw a big tourism crowd at these meetings, so be safe.
I don't see us having 20 people in here personally, but I wish we would. But anyway, we can talk about that next meeting. It's just one more meeting, and Ms. Bree's doing a wonderful job keeping us straight on the Zoom. So we appreciate that. We'll move forward on Census 2020, Jim.
Yes, sir, Mayor. We just want to remind everybody, I think our numbers are still low from Gulf County and within the city of Fort St. Joe. Please get out there and be accounted for. We need everybody to log onto their computer. If they need help, please ask. We'll find somebody to help you out to make sure we're all accounted for. It has a big bearing on our funding for our schools, municipalities, county government. Please get out there and be accounted for.
Yeah, we need to keep reminding people of that, and thank Tim Crawford and the Star for doing that. And again, if you have problems, call City Hall. I think we can get someone to help you online.
Mayor, I have one question.
All right.
Did we have to vote to extend the emergency order? Resolution 2020-02?
No, it's just there.
It's already in existence.
You have to repeal it.
Okay. I just thought it would be expired in 7 days.
No.
Commissioner Ashbrook, right now, the way it's set up, where you voted on it is still in place.
Okay.
Now, at some point, you want to let this thing sunset, but as long as the governor still has one for the state of Florida, staff recommendation to stay the course that you're on.
All righty, new business, Jim.
Yes, sir. The first item we have is the Buck Griffin Lake Bridge demos. If you'll flip over to pages 43 through 45, this will include all three that are in Buck Griffin Lake. One has actually been replaced. The other two have just been closed off after damage from Hurricane Michael. If it's the wish of the board, we can get those removed. 1, 2, 3, or all of them.
And this is covered by insurance money?
We did receive some insurance money. They didn't pay us for the bridges because they said they were over waterways. But FEMA did include those, and we did recover funding from FEMA. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Jim, the old walking bridge, that's the bridge that's mostly in the water, right?
Yes, sir. If you'll look at page 45, that is the old walking bridge.
Yeah, I'm looking at, that's what I'm looking at. I just want to make sure where it's located. It's
Yes.
by the new aluminum bridge.
Correct.
So it's not creating a hazard for anybody or any citizen that might get on it. It's just basically in the water at this time.
It is, but my concern is that debris could hang up on that. If we had a lot of debris to get hung up on, it could have water back up through that waterway, which we're gonna talk a little bit later on in the agenda about a grant to help come back and clear out other debris in there from, that we classify as chicken house branch. That's the only concerns about stormwater flow and debris hanging up on that old structure.
The signage also needs to be just a tad bit better to warn people, because you can still hit that loop and go all the way to that bridge.
So we've got $10,000 worth of demo work in front of you. This gentleman demoed Dr. Hill parking lot. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's how we came familiar with this company, was that he'd done the work for Mr. Kennedy with the PSJR.
I think his prices are solid. I expected it to be more.
Yes.
And I think we need to get them all out. And the one that by the walking bridge, by the new one, looks horrible. And for no other reason than just get it cleaned up. We need to get it going.
And they're gonna take all those pilings out.
That's my understanding. We'll clarify, but according to the quote we had with Mr. Grantham was they would take care of everything, to my understanding. He may be on the phone too. John, are you on the phone by chance?
Hey, I'm here, Jim.
Hey, John. Will the piles be removed with the old walking bridge platform that was there? I think that's the whole focal point, was to remove the piles, wasn't it?
That is correct, sir. Everything will be removed. Piles, lumber, timbers, everything will be gone.
Perfect. Thank you, John.
Yes, sir.
The only thing is, we need to come in at $999,999.99.
Actually, these
So
will
we
be
don't have to
three.
bid it.
Mayor, I would class, these are actually three different projects. So what I would do is I would keep them separate. I would vote on each one of them as a separate project with a separate task order to that
Okay,
end.
that way we won't have to bid it. Okay,
Motion to adopt the total of $4,000 for the North Boardwalk, 20th Street Park.
okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Ashbrook for the 20th Street boardwalk. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Langston. And that's contingent on, Mr. Grantham did say that's complete, soup to nuts, all the pilings, everything. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign, motion passed 5-0.
Motion to adopt the Middle Boardwalk, 20th Street Park for $2,500.
Okay, Commissioner Ashbrook, a second to that.
I'll say.
Second by Commissioner Lowry. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign, motion passed 5-0. Now, the old walking bridge, you get all that out of the water and clean that up a little bit.
Last one, motion for the South Boardwalk, 20th Street Park for $3,500.
Okay, Commissioner Ashbrook, motion, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Langston. Further discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign, motion passed 5-0.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, while we're on this, can we get this gentleman to bid on removing the tore up sidewalk down closest to the water's edge at the bay at Frank Hay Park? The sidewalk, I noticed the other day, just drops off into probably a 3-foot hole.
Highway or?
No, right by the water's edge, like if you left the pavilion, the picnic pavilion, where it's gonna make the circle around that park, there's a bad spot from the hurricane that just took a big chunk of concrete and moved it. And I noticed a lady the other day determined to stay on the trail, and it just isn't a safe environment.
Chris, if you'll give me, we'll take a look at it and get him to give us.
Yeah, because I think while he's doing this work, we get that squared away.
Does it require that much, or is it nothing? Is anything the city can do easy without?
Right now, I think we need to get down there and rope it off, keep people out of that area.
Okay. All right, we're moving along, fellas, and we're at sidewalks on Monument Constitution. Same reason Commissioner Hoffman talked about that section. Our sidewalks on Monument have been in bad shape for years. They're worse now because of trucks cleaning debris off of folks' property. Especially the area from on Methodist Church almost to the, I don't know, 13th, 14th Street. And then the other side's always been bad, the whole 9 yards. And not all of Constitution, but a good bit of Constitution. Some of Constitution has been repaired. But bottom line is, I just asked Jim if we could get an idea about what it would take to, I mean, somebody's gonna get hurt. And we've already had some suits, unfortunately, about trip and falls. Get an idea what it would cost us to do that. Bid it out. Just so we'd have a starting point of what it might cost. Jim, you wanna fill them in on what you found, how much it would take?
Yes. It would be an item we would have to bid out as well above the bid threshold on there. But just kind of roughly looking at it on there, concrete cost from what I'm hearing, finished concrete work is about $5.25, $5.50 per square foot. Just kind of per foot, I believe is what it's going to be. So basically, kind of put that in perspective of what you're looking at. I think you're in the ballpark somewhere around $90,000 for each side. So you multiply that times 3, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $270,000 to roughly $300,000 what you're looking at to put sidewalks back in there. Just off the top of the cuff. It needs to be bid out. I'm not sure exactly what the final cost.
And the $5 a square foot was finished work.
That's just kind of what we're kind of hearing out there in the marketplace.
Right,
I
but
don't
you
have
got, and does that include demoing it, hauling it?
That's probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's just finished concrete work is what we're hearing around town.
it's just something that really is way overdue. We need to dress that up a little bit. I know it's a lot of money and we don't have money to do it and we don't have the staff. You know, I was just trying to make it easy that maybe we could get it done because our staff's got a lot of other projects way ahead of that. So that's why I asked you to bring it up. I know staff can do it and they've done it in the past, you know, sections at a time, but that's a pretty big project.
Mayor, is there any way we can just have staff maybe patch the real bad areas? I hate to put in a brand new sidewalk when there's still that amount of construction going on. Chances are, cement truck's gonna roll over that sidewalk and bust it up again.
Well, that's a good point,
Yeah.
especially Methodist Church is gonna be torn down and so is First Baptist and that sidewalk too. So,
Maybe we get a quote on cutting up the spots that are bad.
I would almost be in favor of getting it up and putting rock or something in there, just a rock path or something. Because, I mean, you're right, 100% right. So let me beat it around with John and Jim a little bit more and come back to you guys and see what Commissioner Riley.
Yeah, I got 2 things. If I recall, I remember several years back, the DOT on Constitution would maintain those sidewalks.
The ones that are on Highway 98, if they're in the right of way with the state right of way, they're responsible for those. So yes, those that you saw replaced the last couple of years, yes, you are correct. DOT. So if you see those that are on the state right of way portion of them, we can call DOT.
I actually have not walked that section, so I don't know if we have a real problem there. They've already been fixed.
And 2, my thought was that could be a good project for Ferguson, CDBG VR grant type deal.
They are in bad shape. They need to be replaced.
Did you check on that for Ferguson or throw that task order to him? And, let's see where we go.
We'll see which ones of those are on state property, and we'll also look and see about some grants.
Keep going some state out there.
Yeah.
I hope so. All righty, go next, Jim.
Yes, sir. Moving along, the next item we have is boat dockage agreement. Currently, we have an agreement with St. Joe Company that allows for 4 vessels to be docked along city property within Clifford Sims Park. You have 2 there. Your agreement currently in place is until sunsets at the end of 2020 and/or such time that the construction work is done. Right now, it's going to be through the end of the year. We have someone that's asked, I gave you a handout, a gentleman by the name of Brandon Bello has contacted Mr. LaCour about trying to utilize a spot down there for a 28-foot boat. Your agreement allows for it if you want to put another boat in there. Pros and cons, it's heavily used right now with fishermen that are up and down the docks there, and you currently have 2 boats that are already there that you want to make sure that it's not going to be any issues. So for your consideration.
Didn't we say first come, first serve when those was it 4 spots were given to us?
Yep. We did
Yeah, I thought so. If we have 2, I'm fine with it.
28 feet times $12.
$336,
How much?
$336.
Okay, a month. Okay.
He's a charter fisherman.
I mean, I don't have a problem with, any of these questions.
My concern is, do we have enough dockage space to move forward with 4 boats? If we, and I get the train of thought that we can have up to 4. And we did discuss first come, first serve, and then things have occurred since then. I think it's fair to say if we allow number 3, then we have to be prepared to allow number 4. And my personal feelings was this really came about because we had a boat, the Fishing Express, that lost its location, its home port location. And we all agreed to open that up and let that vessel tie up more up there at the city owned property. And then we had the second boat that we have a contract with currently with Cito. They also lost dockage there. I have reservations about what that would look like, that bulkhead, if, let's say, the number 4 boat comes in and says, hey, I want to be number 4, and it's a 52-footer. We're going to be all the way down to the end of that bulkhead.
We want to revisit the number. We could revisit the number if we allow this one.
Or maybe the space, revisit what we feel is comfortable and fair to the ones that utilize that same area for crabbing and fishing. Or do we just say, no, we're going to let 4 boats come in there?
It's hard to say. We don't know how much space we have left.
Right. I support this $336 a month for I don't know how many months. This will be month by month, or
It would be 4 months until October 1.
is that?
Your agreement currently, we can keep it in place until the end of the year or such time that the marinas are back together. But I think you're safe to say that you could probably do it for the end of the year, but more likely a 28-foot boat, I can't imagine them wanting to keep it in the water. I'm not sure what type of boat it is, but I would imagine they wouldn't want to leave it in the water past Snapper River. I think so.
Right. So you want to start June 1, and obviously no ending date on this request, but it is October 31.
The other leases are through September 30th, so we would start those over again on October 1 if we're able to, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think we go to the end of end of 2020 though, with the agreement with St. Joe Company. Yeah. Okay. Any more discussion on the request? Okay, is there a motion to approve the 28-footer for $12 a month, whatever, figure that.
I'll make a motion to that effect with one contingency that we look at the space that we have left after and revisit how many more spots we have available.
Okay. All right, motion by Commissioner Ashbrook, there's a second to that.
I'll second. I'd just like to add something.
Okay, second, stands, Commissioner Lowry, and I vote for discussion.
Just what you mean is, I guess the length.
We may not have another spot, is what I'm saying. We may have to just say, oh, we can allow us 3. That's all I'm saying.
Or another 24-foot boat or.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why we brought it to you today, because you're exactly right. Mr. Robbins said you get a 52-footer, that takes up another space. So that's why I think this has to be done on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I mean, we may have room for a 24-footer and generate some more money without running folks out to where they crab and fish, but yeah, I think you're right on.
Commissioner Hoffman, is your concern us being able to offer a bigger boat?
Yeah,
To get
yeah.
more-
I'm concerned that if we approve number 3, is that the message that we're saying we're gonna automatically approve number 4? I don't think we'll have a problem with a 28-footer. I hope we can talk to them about maybe starting in parking instead of alongside the wall parking. But when you have the Fishing Express down there, that's a lot of boat to get into that little space that they have rented. And there was already discussion months back of if we did go to a number 3, how far away do we want that number 3 from the Fishing Express and those kind of things. I just don't want to automatically say we're going to let the first 4 boats come in, because it all has to deal with how are they going to park that boat. If they can stern in, and that's what they really need to do. That's why most charter boats prior to the hurricane, they were all sterned in. They had poles out there, and maybe there's a way we can get them to do that. Then there's not that big concern over running out of space.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to create a controversy of the Fishing Express being the old veteran down there in the first one, and somebody new comes in and says, I got this much right as you do to be here, which he does, but still, you gotta have maneuvering room. And we may.
Hey, Mayor, I'm sorry. This is John, Mayor.
We may want to put this person in the last spot and then say, well, that's all we're gonna have.
Right.
That's my point, Mayor, is that after this, we may just shut it off.
Correct. And then Jim was right, with case by case basis, so it's kind of a good problem to have because it generates some revenue for us, but same time, we don't want to create a problem down there. So there's someone on Zoom that would like to
I think Mr.
speak.
Grant wanted to speak.
Yeah, that was me, Mayor. The only thing I wanted to bring up to the board's attention were utilities and the fact that we only have one, available down there, which is forward of the Fishing Express. So from a water standpoint and power, there's really nothing else left.
And Fishing Express pays for that water and the power, is that correct?
I'm assuming it's in the lease. I'm not certain. I would assume, but we only have one point was my reason for bringing it up. So if somebody else needed it down the bulkhead, that's a pretty long ways to run some hoses.
That's a good point. We need to make sure that if Fishing Express is paying for that water, then they're not paying for it.
It's not specifically listed in the lease, no, sir. It's just the only access we have down there. I would guess the 2 boats are sharing it now.
Okay, so if they're not paying for it, then the other guys have just as much right to use it as Fishing Express, okay.
We need to
If
make
they-
them aware of the possible restricted use of that, though, before we lease it.
Absolutely, no doubt. Yeah. Don, you got anything else? Okay, all right, everybody, good with the motion? Any more discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed, same sign, motion passed 5-0. So you guys just make sure you tell this guy that it's not just private marine, gotta share. Okay, doke. Jim, what else? You going to Public Works? You ready for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Public Works, John, you're on.
Hey, Mayor, just real quick, just to update the board, we did finish the Jones Homestead project last week. So that was a big project off our plate. We still have a little bit of smaller stuff to do there, but all the main line is in, and Clay is seeking for the final clearance on that project today.
All right, good deal. Anything else? Anyone have questions for John? All right, John, thank you. Get feeling better.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
this water plant. Jim, you got anything from Larry and him?
What he's doing on today, they're actually working at the ground storage tank today. They're working on the aeration. So they are trying to improve the aeration in the 2 million gallon ground storage tank. So they got a big project they're working on today out there. But everything else, water quality has been very good.
Right. Anybody have any questions for Larry and the water group? Okay, wastewater plant, Kevin has a request for a shop wall removal. Is Kevin on, or are you gonna take it?
Kevin, are you there? Mayor, what this is, they have been rehabbing after the storm. They had converted one of their buildings over to the shop. What they wanted to do is have a pull-down door. So this is going to require someone to come in to bid out. It's going to be more than $10,000 to be able to cut it out and put it in place. And they're beyond what our skill level is. So that's what that's for. To go ahead and finish up the shop itself with a new pull-down door so they can pull equipment in and out.
So that's something he budgeted?
We have quite a bit of money that came in after Hurricane Michael that came through from insurance. So wastewater treatment plant got a substantial amount of money.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, that project, we did receive about $328,000 in combined reimbursement from insurance and from FEMA. And so all of that is covered under those.
Okay, all right. So I need a motion to go out for a bid for the shop wall removal, and does that also include doing the door and everything?
At this point in time, that's just actually to get the framework taken out so we can actually put a door in. So this does not include a door. That's just the demo portion.
Okay. Be nice if we could bid that.
I can talk to Mr. Pettis and see if we can go ahead and bid that door out.
You could bid the whole, I mean, once they're there and they tear it out and frame it up, you know, find out what they charge to do it. Roll up door, roll down, roll up. No, anybody got a problem with that? Just go in, so we won't have to come back and say, now we gotta buy a door. Okay. All right. Okay, anything else on wastewater, Jim?
No, sir.
All right, Finance Director, Mr. Mike, you got a few things
We need a
here.
motion.
Mayor, can we get a motion?
Oh, yeah, we did. I asked for a motion.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Request to bid.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Lowry and seconded by one of these two guys. Hobson, I would say. Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed. Okay, Mike.
Okay, the first item that I'd like to discuss is the grant for the Chicken House Branch. This was a FEMA project for us to get some funding to help us clean out any remaining debris in some of our ditches. Along the side of the wastewater treatment plant, there's a lot of, actually from the roof of the storage facilities that were there, that a lot of that debris is still in the canal. And then if you come back towards 20th Street, the canal that inlets on 17th Street Canal to Buck Ribbon Lake, there is some debris that's stuck, trees that are stuck at the bridges along the intersections. And then if you come down towards 71 along the 10th Street corridor in that ditch, most of that's pretty clear. But again, at the bridges, there's debris. And then from Highway 71 to First Street, that section in there, if you'll notice, there's a lot of trees that are down in that section. And the concern is restricted waterways in case we have another flood event. And so this grant is requesting $218,000 in funding. And we're not really sure if we'll need that full amount. We're going to have to develop some engineer or construction or bid specs to go out and see what kind of cost it might be to help clear some of these waterways. And let me be clear, this is not dredging or disturbance. This is only removing debris and removing down trees in our waterways to make sure we have good flow. Under this grant, we would be responsible for 25%. So if we did expend the full $218,000, that would be about $54,000. That would be our piece of the puzzle.
I, probably 2 months ago, probably maybe 3, the county got $1 million for this specific purpose. I reached out to Chairman Quinn, got a commitment from him, especially from 71 to 4th Street. That's a bad spot right in there, and a couple other areas that John identified. I don't know where that is. If, Commissioner Lowry, you got any idea about who money already spent, or do you have any idea?
I don't think any of, I'm not sure if any of the work's been done. I know there was cleanup out in Simmons Bayou and such, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's part of that same project or that same
Yeah.
money.
I'll reach out to him. If anybody sees Chairman Quinn, ask him about it, because he did, if we get that done, I mean, I hate to spend $54,000.
We don't need to duplicate any efforts.
No,
question about it.
absolutely not. I mean, the county's already got the money. Now hopefully they haven't spent it, but because I called him and said, we are in the county, we have issues. And so I reached out to John and I gave him three or four different places, and he was okay with it. Now
What if we ask the county to
Cover the match.
cover the 54,000 that we may incur? And if they would be willing to do that, we'll focus on the full 218,000 and we'll take care of our own ditches.
we can do that.
So it sounds like we need some more communication with them to find out what their grant's covering, make sure we don't have any duplicated efforts here.
Correct.
And then come back to you in 2 weeks.
And if and when are they gonna, help us?
Sure.
Yeah, or if they're gonna clean those sections that you're speaking of, we might not need to expend that much.
No, certainly. And there's nothing that says we couldn't, if we can come back with the same fellow that's doing the ditch removal and get the work done. Still this would be our ability to get 75% of that money.
And I've heard from more than one commissioner on the county that told us, hey, you've got some waterway clearing coming your way. So I know that they know. We'd save them some money by just asking them to cover the match. I'm totally for that.
I think Commissioner Lauer is right. I think, in my opinion, I think you want to move forward with trying to get the grant put together, but you may reduce your scope of work, because if you get some of that money to cover it, then you won't have to spend that much money. You'll still be on the hook for 25%, but that 25% might be up only $120,000 versus $200,000.
So Mike, what do we have to do at this point?
We just need the blessing to move forward from the board for me to submit the request for funding. We certainly, they come back with us with the documents for us to make a final decision on. So this would just be me filling out the grant request and moving forward with it. So Jim's right, and we wouldn't be restricted to this full amount. So we'll have another pass at this to either accept it or reject it.
Okay, as long as we're not obligating ourselves to any money right now.
So,
Okay, I'm good with that.
okay.
Anybody got a problem with going forward with it? Okay. All right, what's next?
The city pier, the pavilion over the water at Frank Page Park. So we have a combined funds of $289,000 from insurance and FEMA. And currently, we have to move forward with making a decision if we're going to repair it. We've got a 1-year deadline currently from FEMA to complete construction work. So we have a year to get whatever we're going to complete and push through FEMA for recovery to start that process. We know that the bids came back at $450,000 and $600,000 originally to repair that.
We have that 289 in hand right now. That's something we're gonna have to ask for after we spend it.
We have the 289 in hand now, yes. Now, if we spend more than the 289,000, we'll have to ask FEMA for those additional funds. Now, the other reason we have to make that decision on this is because this particular project would fall into a 428 category. If we elected not to rebuild it, we could categorize this as 428 and use those funds to build something else.
Fishing piers at Clifford Sims.
Well, it would have to be approved through the state, and I would think it would have to be within that parks. I don't know that we could, now that's not clear yet. You know, we've not gone to the state and asked them to classify or reclassify any funds under the 428 proposal, so I'm not 100% sure. But it would have to fall within reasonable use of that money. Was that a reasonable use of what that money was intended for? Now, the fishing piers at Clifford Sims Park are still out there, and I have them on the agenda for discussion as well.
Right, but City Pier, I mean, I don't have a problem rebidding it. I'd love to see it rebuilt, but I don't want to spend, you know, heating and air conditioning, something, I think 450,000.
What I'd like, Mr. Mayor, is to first demo what's there. Let's go out and get through this, because it's my understanding, if we did move to rebuild over the water, they would not utilize the pylons that are currently there.
That's correct.
The first thing we need to do is get that mess tore out. Let's get bids on demoing the existing pylons. Then let's enter into discussions about, do we want another pavilion over the water? If not, where do we want it? I like the idea, at least to look at, is moving that entire building that used to be there, the pavilion, and shifting it over to the other side of the boat landing on the bay side of the fish cleaning table. And it wouldn't go over the water, but it might be a high-rise area that you could go out there and picnic. You could observe the bay from an elevated position, something like that. I've seen that in other communities, and they're utilized and they look good. That's just an idea, but back to the first point, we got to demo that mess and get it cleaned up.
Yeah, I think the demo is scheduled into the bidding of the project originally. So that was built into the $458,000 bid.
Right. Yeah. I think now that we're not going to let them demo it and build something, we may have to go back to those two people or two companies and say, give us a price on getting this demo.
I'd prefer to go out and have maybe the demo as one piece and the construction as another.
Yes.
And go out for bid for the whole thing, but have those pieces separated so that you could make a decision on, okay, we're not going to rebuild it, but we're just going to do the demo.
So you're saying rebid, but under that bid umbrella, you would have the demo, one portion of it, and the rebuild is the other.
Yes,
Okay,
because that way,
I mean, if we just come up with 289, we're good to go. We can do it.
Yeah.
That's what we got now. Yeah.
Yeah, Mayor, I think what you want to have is an alternate in there. That way it has the ability for somebody to bid strictly just on the demo on there, and then you have the ability for somebody to bid on the demo and the construction.
That makes sense.
That way you can look at both options.
if you're going to go that route, you have to know where they're going to build this new structure. I don't think there's going to be a possibility that we can afford to rebuild the pavilion over the water. Based on the prices that we have been presented, that's not going to happen.
Clay has met with the FEMA mitigation experts to talk about other options. And the concern Clay expressed about building it on the other side is the rocking nature of that structure. And that's there now, that it would probably have to be removed in order to get down to a base. So it seemed problematic to them when they discussed it, that relocating a pavilion to the other side would be problematic for those reasons. And FEMA and Clay came up with the concept that it either needs to be rebuilt there at that location, or it's not going to work at another this space. FEMA tells us that if we elect to build it, whatever the bid is, if it comes in more than the 289,000, as long as we follow our bid guidelines and everything is costed reasonably, that they'll up their reimbursement to whatever the actual cost is. And we've not done anything with FEMA like that, and it is a significant, another $170,000 over what we currently have. That's a big risk, but they're indicating that they will cover the actual cost as long as it's reasonable and follows our bid guidelines.
Could we get the new bid? Let's say we go back out for bid and the new bids come in and the cheapest bid or the lowest bid is $450,000. Can we submit that to FEMA and say, are you going to reimburse us at that full amount?
We did that with the original bid, and they would not answer that. They would not say definitively. They would not go back and rework their calculations. They would not. We tried that. So I think Jim and I both are very apprehensive when we discuss it about that idea. But like I say, we've not gone through this process.
We need to get FEMA people here then and get them to come and explain the process to us, because if what I'm hearing is an option and they will stand by their word on what they're telling you, they need to say that in a meeting or they need to sign a document to that effect. We can't spend $300,000 on a phone call conversation. But if that's an option and they'll come here before the committee and say, yes, we will pay the amount it costs to rebuild it, then I'm all for building it over the water.
Right.
But, only if we can get that commitment from FEMA.
Well, I think the hope is if we could go out to rebid it again, try to stir up 3 bids and push the price down, that we would reduce that liability that we currently would be facing, or uncertainty we would be facing about whether FEMA would reimburse us that money or not. We are certainly, and part of the apprehension that Jim and I have expressed in our discussions is that we are facing, not from FEMA. FEMA has turned some of the money over to the state, and the state is auditing it before they give it to us. And they are hammering us and have not given us the full $118,000 yet that we were approved from FEMA for our emergency spending in the first 15 days of the storm. It's $418,000 that the state has been auditing and has not released it to us yet. FEMA's turned it over to the state, and the state has the money, and then they have to have their final audit and release the funds to us. So we are getting some significant difficulty or significant questioning about their audit process. So we have the same apprehension that I think I hear from the mayor about spending money that we're not sure they're going to pay us.
We're going through layers and layers of government.
Yeah, I don't believe you'll get a FEMA person give you a yes answer, or I'm definitely not gonna get one to sign something.
Well, I know they came.
I'd like to.
Yeah, they were Johnny on the spot right after the hurricane with promises. They come to every meeting we held, and they had a lot of good things to say. So now let's get them back, and let's ask them to follow up on some of the promises.
Well, they are displaced. As soon as they get back in the area, we can try to get somebody in here, but they've all been shipped back. They're not out in the field. They're all working from home now. But certainly we can do that. But I'd like to see us go out to bid with these modifications that we discussed to just try to see if we can't make that pavilion happen for the community and to rebuild what was.
Yeah, I'm committed to rebuilding it on the level that we can afford as a city. 100%. I think everybody would.
I'd say, too, in that place, I mean, just put it back in everybody's minds is we know what number we got currently. It might be ideal to do a design build at that number. Per se.
Yeah, what we can afford.
Yeah. But I can tell you, I mean, you all know as well as I do. I mean, we do a project and we're out $100,000 or whatever, $200,000 on that 450 project. I mean, there's no telling when we might see the money. You know, if, I mean, I do think we would, you know, go by the book and through their strings, but there's no telling when we would probably see the money. I mean, it could be 7 years from
So what I'm hearing is everybody okay to go out and rebid it one more time and see what we come up with?
And split the bid, demo and build.
Do an amendment to the bid for just the demo, separate.
That's fine. Yeah. Okay, I hear a motion to that effect.
Some of
Commissioner Hoffman made the motion. There's a second. Second by Commissioner Langston. Any more discussion?
I
All right, go
said,
ahead.
FEMA said what's reasonable. What do they,
Right. Well,
what's reasonable to them?
yeah, well, I don't know, you know, they took the damage and they put it in their costing model and they used the cost that they've established and developed what they say the cost is. I would assume if it was 50, 60, 70% more than their cost of development, they might question it. You know, so what cost does it come back in? So let me see if I can find some literature that might explain some of this more clearly to us all, that we can all read and understand, and then have a better handle on what they mean by fair and reasonable costing of the project.
Okay, and motion second, Jim.
Go ahead, finish. As soon as we finish this, Mayor, I want us to go back and touch base on the grant again one more time. Once we.
Okay. Okay, all right, there's a motion to rebid the city pier project and separate the demo from the actual rebuild of the pier. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, aye. Aye. Same sign, motion passed. 5-0. Okay, let's back up to the Chicken House Branch grant.
Mayor, can we get a approval from the board to go ahead and apply for that grant and to sign the documents? Because that's the one thing they usually ask when you apply for state and federal grant fund, they want to come back and make sure the
I
board.
thought we did that. We just make a motion to go out and
We
just.
had a consensus, but not a formal vote.
Okay, all right, well, let's go. I specifically asked Mike if we could do it, and it wouldn't obligate us to any money, so I guess.
They indicated that they would be 30 days for them to process it and send us back.
Right,
Final.
and if we decide to sign it at that point, we will, based on what we get out of, from the county.
That's correct.
Okay, so there's a I need a motion for, go after the grant, fill out the application for the grant for a Chicken House Branch debris removal. Okay, motion by Commissioner Ashbrook, there's a second. Second by Commissioner Hoffman. Any further discussion on that? John, you still out there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm here, Mayor.
Have you heard anything from Sandy Quinn as far as them having this Chicken House Branch that we discussed with him several months ago?
No, sir, I have not heard anything from him on that, but I know 2 or 3 of the areas that we discussed earlier were the ones you and I discussed with him.
Okay, all right, just checking. All right, any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion passed 5-0. All right, official appeals, Clifford Sims Park.
All right, so again, with related to FEMA and their request for us to move forward with any construction, that we have a year to do that. It would be a request for us to start design, to get our engineers and John to work together to come up with a design plan that we could then develop a bid specs if we elect to rebuild those 2 piers at Clifford Sims Park.
I think the major question is, do we want to? And if we do we want to just do 1 or we do 2?
I think we decided a while back just to do that one bit.
that we did.
Increased on.
So then we need some guidance then to move forward with the engineering of that. John has talked about the idea of possibly looking at the same material that built the bridge at Buck Griffin Lake, an aluminum structure that might be more durable.
Yeah, Mayor, that was my, original thought was once we put the bridge in at 16th was to kind of kick the tires, but I do like the aluminum design. And it certainly cuts down the structural pilings, if you will, that you'll need to support that.
I love it. I do. And I think this board nodding their head in that we all decided that just do one nice pier instead of trying to do two.
Okay.
Mayor, I think couple things. The first being you need to figure out structurally what would be needed to support it. So we need to determine the size of the actual structure we would put in place and the way to work with the engineer for a task order to find out what you're looking at structurally to put that in place. And on the flip side of that, you're looking at to bid out the actual piers themselves and then the actual structure.
Gotcha.
Right. Now, last time when we did the 16th Street Bridge, we used Jack Husband. He went through Dewberry, but we ended up, Jack drew the plans. So we could certainly reach out to Jack and see, a cost on that or go through Dewberry again, but he would end up being your structural guy.
I really would hate to give Dewberry any more tasks right now because we're really concentrating on water, sewer, and so forth for Long Avenue. And we got a really short time frame to get all that done. Not taking anything away from them, but still, this is not a real urgent thing right now. So I wouldn't have a problem letting the husband do it.
Well, if the board wants, I can go out and get some some pricing for each one of those elements and bring it back to you at a later date, and maybe for extra discussion.
That'd be great. That'd be fine with me. How about anybody got any problem with that? Everybody good with that? Okay. All right, John, we're gonna turn you loose on
What would be the location by the bathroom? Is that what we're talking about?
it. I think so. That's central.
Now this particular project has no insurance funding. This would only be through FEMA. So the problem with the FEMA on this project is they would develop the cost based on construction of to the existing condition. So the only way to develop that cost would be to develop a bid back and go out for bid on rebuilding it as they exactly were.
Well, I do have old remodeling plans we can probably adapt and use for that, Mike.
So that would be the other piece. In order to get FEMA to drive the numbers up that we can recover from them, we need to go out for bid to rebuild in the same fashion that it was. 2 big piers.
So if we did that, and they approved it, could we go something lesser cost?
We could categorize that if it's over $128,000 in cost, we could categorize it as 428 and then request that we build just the one pier.
What we're gonna do is what we're gonna do.
All right, so we'll work on developing a bid spec for the two to replace the original.
Yeah, so if we do two and they approve it, then we can tear it down and do one.
And we have it categorized as 428 now, anticipating that we would do something different with those funds.
Okay.
I believe also when we voted and discussed going from 2 piers to 1 pier, I believe we voted in support of shifting $17,000 of boat launch fees to that project. We'll have to go back and look at our records, but I believe there was some money that was approved from the boat launching fee to the building of the new pier.
I believe we started work on it right before Hurricane Michael. I know we had some design work done, so we dust all that off. But yeah, we were preparing to do some work on that fishing pier closer to the restroom before the school. I think we do have 28,000 in that fund. Right.
Is there anything else?
Anything else? Anything else for Mike?
The final thing I had was a request from the group for the University of Florida that came in and did work in the community. And they're looking to continue that work, and they're looking for a letter of support for a grant from the Jesse DuPont Ball Fund to do additional community planning in the city over the next year. I did include copies of the student projects that they did complete for our parks and recreation. They brought in students and they did a design plan to increase the water flow capacity and design of the 10th Street corridor and to develop connectivity from the 10th Street corridor across 71, across the railroad tracks to Jones Homestead. To Peters Park. So I gave you copies of what those students developed in that. And so this grant would allow them to continue to work with us to develop the concepts throughout our city for future park development and growth.
It's quite comprehensive. Says final master plan. With something like this, we got a lot of talk to do about. Even if we sign this, or agree to let me sign it, tells me we approve it, what they present to us.
No,
That's scary.
this is a student, these are student projects.
I know.
That didn't have any direction from us, right? Their direction was from their student or from their teacher. This is the focus of this project, develop a master plan. So it wasn't anything that was designed for implementation on our part, right? Now this grant request, they state they would hope that this would lead to future move towards implementation. It's in the third paragraph, the last line. So again, this piece of the design work, I think, would be the portion where we would work with them to help us develop something that has meaningful input that we've all had input into. The only person that had input into these 5 plans was me. They met with me, I showed them around. They had the direction and guidance from their instructor. This is the focus of your project, and this is a student project.
Yeah.
You know, it's a classroom.
So we're not obligated any money with the grant. It's just saying, so far we like conceptually what they're doing, and we hope they'll, continue. That what everybody understand?
And I've worked with these students. I know Mike's been on a lot of the calls with them. It's just an opportunity for these kids to get some real world experience before they become our city engineers and become our city planners. They're getting to put hands on a real problem and come up with a solution. What we do with that is up to us. We don't have to do anything with it.
I agree completely. This is student
Just trying to get it, make sure
Oh, yeah.
everybody
Absolutely,
understands
yes.
what we got going on.
Now, if you want to talk about the real world and where we need to be going, we do need to start the discussion about what we're going to do with 10th Street and the 60 acres and the idea of connecting Washington Gym through that corridor makes a lot of sense. I'd love to see something like that happen. Is that possible? I told the students I didn't think it was, but
They're creative.
But that would be awesome, I think, to be able to do something like this in the future. Certainly, we don't have the funds for this. You look at some of the elements in these things. But we do need to get back to 10th Street. We do need to make a decision about what we're going to do there. And maybe this process will help us guide through it.
Yeah.
Is I have a question about the actual language in the letter. Is the FRC proposal the map that we have supplied behind?
No, the maps supplied behind it were the University of Florida Landscape and Architecture class that came in. They spent a week here. I walked them through the properties. They went back as their student class projects and developed these master plans. There was 5 groups and they developed 5 different master plans. And that's what you have there, is 5 copies. And then the focus of these master plans was to improve water flow and drainage and to develop connectivity from Washington Gym to the 20th Street corridor.
What is the FRC proposal that we're saying we support
I,
this letter?
I asked them to submit to me because I thought that would be important to have as well. And I didn't get the final proposal, so I don't have the exact language of exactly what specifically they're going to be looked at.
Well, because today, we're being asked to support a letter from the city signed by the mayor. And in this letter, we're saying therefore, we support the FRC proposal and look forward to it becoming a reality, blah, blah, blah. I'd like to first know what this proposal is and have time to review it before I support.
Well,
letter.
unfortunately, that grant submission is today. They need this letter today.
Well, I can't sign off and support something that I don't even know what I'm supporting.
Proposed Florida Resilient Cities Program. We don't know what that program is.
No, I'm very leery of saying, yeah, let's send them a letter and support something. We don't know what it is.
They've been here 6 months.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
The implementation doesn't say we're going to implement the plan.
Right.
No, what it's saying is that I support whatever that plan is, and we don't know. We've never seen it before. We're going to support it.
Do you support the process of beginning to look at the redevelopment of our park system in that corridor? That's what it says to me.
Well,
I do support that. I'm just leery if they're working on this proposal that we haven't seen, and then it comes back and it's all jacked up, and we have people that have a direct impact that live in that corridor that say, "Whoa, no, why did you support that, Scott?" I'm saying, I would hate to say, well, I support it because I'd never seen it. I want to know what their plan is. And if it was the drawings and things and all the parts of that drawing, we could look at it and decide, is that feasible or not? That's my only concern.
I don't think there's anything that limits us to the ability to say, no, we're not.
That obligations, is that what you're?
I'm not saying
No
this doesn't.
Right.
The planning, grant.
If we're just giving the approval to move forward and work on a specific plan, I'm good with that.
Sure.
As long as we have the opportunity if the plan comes back to us and we don't like it at all.
Absolutely. That's my understanding.
I'd hate for it to be headlines of paper that we support this.
Right.
Yeah.
We really hadn't had a chance.
Yeah, these two are on the
to let
lake.
public know what
They're on the lake.
what we're doing. It looks good on paper. I mean, and it's pretty much the same conversation we had at our prior meeting with Northwest Florida, Reverend Davis, with the PAC, and want to know exactly what we're.
Sure.
It's no wonder you're supporting the fact that they're a class and they're just doing this as a project. It's not necessarily supporting even what
They just need some money to keep
the class.
They come back over here and
I think exactly right. As Commissioner Ashbrook said, this is an academic exercise. They're looking for money. They came and spent the whole week with the grant they had.
Yeah.
They want to do that again, and it makes sense for them to have real world experience. And I think that's the gist of it.
Okay. So we'll need a motion to allow me to sign this letter of support for this project at the University of Florida.
So move.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Ashbrook, second. Second by Commissioner Langston. Any more discussion? Anybody out in Zoom land?
Only thing I've got, I'd have, Mr. Mayor, this would tie into our grant, could tie into our grant with Northwest Florida Water Management District.
Oh, no
We got
doubt.
800.
No doubt. I don't want them to get convoluted at
Yeah.
all, because that's on the agenda also, in a few minutes, about talking about the So they would have to approve it, anything to do with that watershed.
That pipe needs to be replaced.
So anyway, okay, any more discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passed 5-0.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir, thank you. All right, city engineers, Mr. Clay out there?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'm here.
Hey, Clay, thank you for being here, and good luck in your new endeavor. We're certainly gonna miss you.
I appreciate it. I miss you guys too. I like doing work for y'all, but you got Josh Baxley's gonna come in and do a great job. He's a Gulf County guy, grew up here, born and raised here, so you're in good hands.
Yeah, no, we know it, but we hate you gonna leave us, but I understand. All right, let's talk about Mattis Park stormwater pipe permit.
Since your last meeting, we received the Army Corps permit for that. That's it's about 275 feet of pipe to go in the ditch down there by the Maddox Park or by the Maddox house, and runs parallel to Miss Ola's Drive. And so you have all the permits you need now, and I think we're turning that one over to the city for add to Mr. Grantland's short list of things he has to do, I'm sure.
Mayor, there was
That's great.
discussion-
I'm surprised we got permits as quick as we did.
Mayor, there was some discussion about the county maybe looking at closing that loop inside the EDC. I'm not sure as to whether they would help out with actually putting that pipe in place. So I don't know if there's any interest in the county to help us out with that pipe, or if we would want to bid, or how you want to handle it. It's pretty mucky in there. It's going to be quite a large pipe, but so we just got the permits on it. We need to figure out how we handle it.
I did have a conversation, it's been a while back with, I think it was Commissioner Rogers maybe. Not sure, but I think there was some talk about the county assisting with that project. So I could
It
check
would be a
into
great,
because it's right next to the TDC.
cooperation type project that we can do it all at one time and utilize some of our guys, some of their guys, some of our equipment, some of theirs. It's perfect.
It would definitely open up the park there for a lot more access, a lot more usability there.
Okay, Clay, what are you asking us to do at this time? You just turn it over to us to run with it?
Yes, sir. I think it's your information. For your information, we'll certainly help you with whatever you need help. But I think at this point, we're kind of at the end of what y'all had asked us to do so far.
So, Brad, are you gonna make an interview with somebody?
Yeah,
We'll see what,
Yeah, I believe it was
in
mainly,
their timeline too.
yeah, I believe it was mainly because it's directly across from the TDC.
Right. All righty, NERDA grant.
The end of last week, Water Management sent back some comments on those 3 conceptual plans that were put together. And so we're in the process of answering those comments, providing them the information they requested. Certainly we'll send that through the city to get to them. And then as far as I know, we're still kind of all on hold on having the second public hearing. So that's really about as far as we can go with it, unless Jim's heard something different. But I think that's where we left off.
Oh, that's exactly right. We got some questions that we've got to answer back to DEP through the Water Management District, and then we need to reschedule as soon as things are opened up to have the meeting. We will get that rescheduled.
Yeah, because there were 3 options there, I thought. And actually, I kind of like 2 of them, little bits of 2 of them, I'll put it that way. And I'm not sure you got to re-engineer that if we decide, we like a little bit of this one, a little bit of that. I know, but is that doable, Clay? I mean, is that, when we have the workshops, that's something we'll talk about?
Yes, sir. I think that's the goal of the second workshop, is to talk about what items you like, what items you don't like, and then kind of pick a direction, and then we'll start designing and permitting, based on the preference of the board.
All right. Anybody have questions for Clay while we got it before we leave? All right, Clay, thank you, buddy. Have a great day.
Thank y'all.
Code enforcement. We're moving along with that. I know we've got two folks working now. Have we seen an increase in our violations or what?
Actually, looking at town, I think we're doing a pretty good job. In the last couple of weeks, I think we've seen quite a few things that have been picked up. We've had several hearings take place over the last couple of months before before COVID-19. But we're talking to our two code enforcement officers. At their next meeting, we're going to start making some decisions. We have some that have went through a code enforcement hearing, but no actions have taken place. There's still violations that are sitting out there that we've got to take some action on. So be thinking about going out to bid, if we're going to get involved, how we're going to get involved to clean these places up that have not been addressed.
Any question on code? All right, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything on the agenda. Board has a question.
Well, you and I talk about our building all the time and our bidding out the police station. Last time we talked, you said y'all had turned a few things back over to the draftsman. Is there any movement on that? When can you get one?
He emailed us this morning. I honestly had it this morning at 8:30 and pretty much from there to here, so I haven't had a chance to look at it. He says he updated everything that John and I asked him to update, so John and I just now go.
Y'all need to get, you and John need to get together, get a bid package put together for it. Okay. Throw that out there and see what it's gonna cost us. Any questions?
I'm assuming it'll be one contractor.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that personally to start with, because that would be probably the most we'll have to spend unless we want to start being our own contractor, subbing out the AC and subbing out that. I'd like to see one contract for every. And I know that's going to be probably the highest bid, because you got to work that contract fee in there a little bit. But I'd like to see we start what you call value engineering after that. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Ms. Pierce, city clerk.
Unless there's some questions, I don't have anything, sir.
Anybody? Mr. Charlotte? Okay. Citizens be heard. Anyone out there online like to address the city at this time? Hearing none, I'll move on to discussion item by commissioners. We got Commissioner Ashbrook back live and in person, so I'm gonna start with him today.
All right, Mayor. I've got a TDC meeting in 18 minutes, so I am going to be quick. So I probably shouldn't bring up charging at the boat ramp this meeting. Well, let's go to Maddox Park demo. Can we look at, while we're talking about demoing the old bridges and talking about the pavilion, we also look at cleaning that area up, removing the foundation, and at least just putting a bed down so we can start maybe thinking about what a park should look like there. It's just, I mean, it's a hazard. It's just a brick mess right now. If we get that removed as part of this bidding process, going out to look and see what it costs, we can focus on the Maddox Park. I think that's one of our pride and joy areas. Let's take care of it.
Miss Charlotte, the pillars there, the brick pillars, I assume those are original.
Those were there when they raised the house 18 inches some years ago. There was a grant through State Historic Preservation to raise the house, and those are 18 inch. Up where it was, but those are not from the original house.
Okay, so
No,
if we demo it, we don't have to worry about trying to save the bricks.
If we are looking at future plans, we might be able to incorporate them in something.
We just look into that.
Yeah, let's put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Lowry, moving down the line.
I'm good.
Okay. Mr. Langston. Okay. Mr. Bob.
While we're talking about the Maddox home site, I just have to think, we have that anchor land there, and it's just, I'm worried somebody was gonna try and take it at some point. What do you think about the opportunity of moving it over maybe to the lighthouse there at the keeper's quarters, where we could, it'd be on display, people can see it, and we'd have a better, handle on it, staying where we want to keep it. If we decided to move it back to the Maddox house, we obviously could, but I just hate it just laying in the dirt right now.
The anchor is on loan from the state. We complete a report each year on that. because it is on loan to us from the state. I don't know if we would have to request their permission to temporarily move it. I'll be happy to check into that, but it is not something that we own, it's a loan.
Right, I knew that there was some strength in that. I
Yes,
just like to see if we get permission to move it while
Okay.
we pick it up.
Well, right now to the public, the anchor means nothing. I think that if it's gonna exist, there should be some sort of plaque. Plaque needs to be on the building. Now there's not.
Yeah.
Hang a
You
sign.
know the history behind the anchor or what happened?
yes, we have some information on it.
Okay, good.
The other item I have is, we talked about when we put those barriers up in front of McDonald's and in front of Hungry Howie's, that would fall under the care and upkeep would be that group that is with DOT. And it seems like the ones at McDonald's were well thought out, it works. The ones at Hungry Howie's are a mess. And what happened was they didn't take into consideration the 18-wheelers that have to take that right-hand turn. So they've destroyed them. Can we call those people, send them a letter and say, come down here and fix this problem? They need to move them back to the north. The ones that are destroyed need to be removed.
Yeah, that old section.
Yeah, the ones that are all black from the tire. A logging truck can't make that turn. So
We'll give them a call.
let's get that fixed. The other thing, and I'll be quick since we only have a few minutes for today, I do want to continue the dialogue about the launch process and the decals. We have the new decals in that are going to identify the ones that do not have to pay. I'd like to add to the topic of discussion and ask you to start thinking about maybe that's all we do. Is if you're a resident of Gulf County and you are eligible for a free launch, we'll give you a decal. If you live outside of that, you get no decal and you pay every time you launch.
Simple.
It solves the problem that we all had to deal with, the people that wanted their $5 back because they paid $50 and they were out a month. I want to have that. I don't want to have that problem again in the future.
Well, Commissioner Hoffman, I think before you got on the board, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when we were talking about parking meters on Reed Avenue where you pull a ticket, stick it in your window, those machines, they take cash, they take credit cards, they spit a ticket out, you stick the ticket in your window. It makes it very easy for the officers to police that. And it was $3,000. To me, that's a no-brainer. That's a weekend boat ramp fees in July.
And when we get to that point, I think it's a great idea, and I will support it. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, we talked about it a long time. I was down there early Saturday morning talking to the officer, and he had been down there since, I don't know, several hours before I got there. And he said the whole time he was there, he saw 2 people put money in the launch. There was one individual from Alabama that, while I was sitting there talking to him, that launched without paying. So we'll still have the issue of launching without paying and not having a little sticker on the dashboard or the ticket on the dashboard.
We'll
So
put the
then we
ticket on
got-
the dashboard.
Then we got to decide, police go down there twice a day or something and buy tickets, but we don't have an ordinance for that.
No, what we would charge them is for failure to follow the parking ordinance that will pass for that specific area. You don't have that ticket on your dash, you get a ticket
There you go.
from the city.
I'm with you. I think we all are, because if we're gonna charge down there, it's got to be enforced.
Yes.
They'll have to comply. So, anyway, that's enough said for today. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Somebody, like, everybody remain safe, please.